Thank you very much. So let's start now with the questions. There are lots of people and lots of colleagues coming from Taiwan. They are also, of course, welcome to ask questions. Please come, raise your hand and come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation if you got one. I saw the first from Germany here.
Freelancer from Germany. In 1991, there was a formula found between Taiwan and China, one country and two interpretation. Would you accept, if you're elected as president, would you accept this formula as a basis for Taiwan-China relations?
Right. I think you're referring to what is commonly called the 1992 consensus. All right. And there has been a lot of debates as to whether there exists a 1992 consensus, and if it exists, what it means, and what is the definition of 1992 consensus. And many people who participated in the process, including the president at that time, that is Lee Teng-hui, they were saying that there was no consensus reached in that period of time. And in the Chinese view, if there is a 1992 consensus, the consensus should be defined as both sides insist on this one China principle and full stop. That is the Chinese view. And the KMT view, which was the ruling party back in the early 1990s, in the KMT's current interpretation of what happened in that time, is this one country with a different interpretation. No, the Chinese make it very clear that there's no room for different interpretation. So it is a confusion, and it is not a settled issue as to whether there exists a 1992 consensus, and if it exists, what it means. So you can't build a relationship on a very complex relationship on a consensus that people are still debating whether it exists. And in recent remarks of the KMT leaders, including President Ma, he said this is a fiction. So you can't develop a very complicated set of relationship with China based on a fiction. Even though it is a fiction and it may serve as some sort of basis for the relationship, you may ask whether this is something that is produced through a democratic process. Taiwan is a democracy now. In the 1990s, perhaps early 1990s, we're still very much an authoritarian society. But now it's 2011. We're moving towards the 2012 election. Taiwan is a democracy. And in a democracy, people's expectations are very, very different. So it's time for us to sit down and to form consensus among ourselves in Taiwan. And then when we have a consensus, then we turn around to face the Chinese, to have sensible negotiation with them, to build a framework which would provide the basis for a sustainable relationship in the future. So this is what I plan to do. That is to form a Taiwan consensus before we go to China for negotiation, to build a framework for maintaining our relationship in the next 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. You know, China is facing a lot of challenges. We're facing a lot of changes. Asia is facing a lot of changes as well. I mean, this is a changing world. So in a changing world, when you want to build, when you want to deal with a complex relationship, you need to build a strong base and strong framework to deal with that complexities.
Who's next? only German press. Okay. Well, no, I know. Well, I don't know. Come on, Peter. Yes. Nobody else, so warm up.
Hello, I'm Petra Kolonko from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. So has the DPP given up on the aim of establishing an independent Taiwan? And if so, what is the difference between your mainland policy and the mainland policy of President Ma now? Thank you.
Look, I have to reiterate our position, the DPP's position. The DPP think that status quo, the current state of the situation, the current situation in Taiwan is that we are already an independent country, and any change to this status quo requires the consensus or the agreement of the people of Taiwan, and this is our position. So and then this issue of independent Taiwan, I would tell you that we are already an independent country. I mean, we make decisions all by ourselves. We have our own government. We have our own military, and we fulfill every requirement for a country, for a state. So, but for the future, we don't exclude any possibility in terms of our relationship with China. But the problem is that whatever decision that the Taiwanese people make have to follow the democratic rules. After all, we are a democratic society. And any decision by the government in relation to the relationship with China has to be transparent and follow the democratic rules of Taiwan. So the KMT, that is the current government, believes that a secret or a private agreement with China between this agreement between the KMT and China can be used as a basis for the relationship for Taiwan and China. And this is not right, because whatever agreement reached between the two, that is the KMT as a party, as a political party, and China, would not be able to serve as a basis for the relationship between Taiwan as a country and China. So anything that is agreed upon has to be approved by the people of Taiwan through the democratic process in Taiwan. So you ask the difference between my policy and President Ma's policy. The main difference is that I stress the importance of transparency and democratic process.
From Singapore Press Holding 联合早报. I'd like to ask Madam Tsai that regarding the strategy to dealing with China. You say you give a lot of messages in your speech. I want to know that whether you want to combine in this issue together with Kuomintang after you got your presidency. Another thing is that I heard from some of the Taiwan media that Song Chu-yu is coming up. So do you think that you gain or you lose the chances of having this presidency?
Well, when I say Taiwan consensus, I mean a process that is transparent and inclusive. By saying inclusive, I mean that any political party, any major institution representing the views of people of Taiwan will be welcome to participate in the process. And they may have different positions and they may have different views, but they are all welcome. to participate in the process. And at the end, we hope that we can agree on something that would serve as a basis for us to negotiate or to face China. And the thing is that we have a whole set of issues with China trade. We have a lot of other social issues, for instance, in the area of crimes committed across the Taiwan Strait, and both sides need to cooperate in order to combat this cross-strait crimes. And things of that sort requires a lot of cooperation and coordination between the two sides. And trade and economies, of course, are the main focus at the moment. So we need to build a new basis, which is a stronger and more solid, with the support of the majority of the people there. So when I say inclusive, I mean inclusive. So the second thing about gemstone is a popular subject at the moment. As a candidate, you can't rely on somebody else to win an election. So we would just do whatever we can to win the election, and treating gemstone as a variable that we have to deal with.
Hi, I'm with Bloomberg News. Going back to building consensus, I was wondering if there were anything specific you could say about your economic policy that you would try and build a consensus on, whether it be one of the 15 trade deals that Ma had worked out with China, if there were any part of any of those that you wanted to do away with or wanted to focus on. Two, just reading the media reports from your comments already in Japan, I picked up on a comment saying that you wouldn't necessarily follow China's stance on some disputed islands, islands that are disputed between China and Japan, whether that be the Senkaku or the Spratlys. I was wondering if maybe you could say how your policy might differ from that of China's with regard to disputed islands, if that means you would pursue a different dispute, or you don't believe China's is valid. So, thank you.
On these island disputes, we have one single dispute. It's not plural. We have this island dispute with Japan. I think the policy of ours and the current government, the KMT governments, are actually very similar. That is, we need to deal with the issue and the dispute in a peaceful manner, but the difference is the attitude and the patience that you need to have in order to negotiate and talk and communicate with the Japanese government. So the Senkaku or the Spread Island thing, my way of dealing with it is just that let's try to talk to each other to find ways to benefit from our cooperation, so that we all profit from this territorial sea that we both claim have sovereignty over. But I always believe that if we have enough patience and we mean well, and we will be able to develop a common ground that benefits us all in the process.